I'm always appreciative of being invited back. But today's kind of a hard day because always when I come here, the first thing I would do is go down and see Pinky Rankin, and he'd be talking, and he would tell me, he said, I hope you don't waste our time today telling us a bunch of stuff that we don't need to hear. And I would say, you more than anyone need to hear it. He's not here. He's one of my closest friends, and I think you all, we all miss him. Also, when I look into the crowd, and you'll see how important today is, because it's this is where the second book started, and I'll explain that. So my life has changed a lot since the last time that I was here. As you know, I don't like to use the R word, but in December I quit seeing patients, and ever since, and I guess most of y'all, or a lot of y'all, have gone through this, that when you stop working, I have this feeling that I'm supposed to be somewhere. And there's a group of people waiting for me, or I have something really important to do. It gives me tremendous anxiety. You know, I'm thinking, but wait a minute, whoa, it's not right, I don't feel right. And so then I go tell Mary, and Mary said, Chuck, no one's waiting for you. No one cares what you think. And that gives me great anxiety. I'm slowly getting used to it, but you know, careers provide structure. And so there's always something out there that you're supposed to be there, and you're supposed to do, and it makes life kind of easy because there's an external system demanding that you perform, and you think somehow you're the vital link in this. That without me, this isn't going to go on. Certainly, the day that I stop seeing patients, the world is not going to go on. Somebody's going to come and say, Chuck, you got to come back, you know. Well, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. But one of the things about, and that's almost a metaphor for what we're going to talk about today, which is life in the lake fragment. There are some scary things about the lake fragment. There are some magnificent things about it. But in order to connect to those magnificent things, you have to change your perspective of life. And you know I'm here because I've written 2 books. The first was Much Advice. That was a survival guide for aging lives. And the second is called Late Fragment, which are notes on the later stages of life. And I've been accused of being terribly arrogant. One of my buddies said, you know, where do you get off saying that you've got a survival guide for aging lives? He said, that sounds so arrogant. And I know that some of y'all are here and you're thinking, you know, what does this burned out heart surgeon, what could he say today that I would be interested in? What could he tell me that would have any effect on me? Well, I'm going to double down on the arrogance. Okay? The stuff that we're going to talk about today, if you open your mind and open your heart, has the potential to change your life. And that's the metaphor for life as we get closer to the end, that we have to change. We have to change our perspectives. We have to change the demands that we make of life and the demands that we make of others. We are no longer Prince Hamlet. We are there to swell a scene and to advise the prince. But this is not central to us. We are not the most important person in the room. And we're going to talk in depth about those perspectives. If we get it right, and after we're gone, they're going to say, that person was really smart. He was wise. If we don't, they're going to say, I'm glad he's gone. So, both books came from the 10 years that it's hard to believe that I've been doing geriatrics. I call myself a geriatric psychiatrist. And the psychiatrists don't like me calling myself a psychiatrist. When Anita Wu came, she's a neurologist, and she took over a lot of my patients. I think some of y'all have seen her. And she said that the first time she heard that a heart surgeon was starting a dementia clinic, she kind of laughed and said, let's see how that goes. And then she had to apologize because she came to work for me. Okay, so that was a great thing. The first book covered the transition from careers to retirement, and also the effect of normal aging on our brains. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Many of y'all have read it, and I've received a tremendous amount of affirmation from people who've read it that said, this particular scenario or this particular story hit me, and I've always been appreciative. The second book is much deeper, and it came from a much deeper place. Actually, it came from the late stages of life. The late fragment I define as the time in life that is when everyone else thinks that everything that's going to happen to you is not that important, and that what you think is not that important, and everything that you would look forward to has already happened. We are in a much later stage in life. It is after retirement. It is after careers, after early and mid-retirement. It's after travel. It's after volunteering. And everything that's supposed to be important in your life has already happened. Now, wait a minute, there is one thing. Your own death. Okay. Now, why would any sane person who likes to write a book about this? Can you imagine? My wife said, this is going to be a real thigh slapper. People are going to get a real kick out of this. Well, the reason why and how I got into this actually came from this room. And I was asked to come and talk about much about it and about the transition from careers to retirement. And as I was preparing for it, I projected into this room to see the faces of the people there. And I realized that everything about much of ours didn't really pertain to the audience. The audience I was looking at were in their 80s, some of them were already in their 90s, and they had already done that transition from retirement to retirement. But I started to think about what is it that I could say, or at what level could I come into this audience and make a difference. And I started to think about what were these people's lives like? What did they hope? What did they wake up in the morning and look forward to? What did they fear? And was there enough hope to match the fear? And that started this process of my living with you all in this late fragment for the last 4 years. I've written quite a bit, and then I had to stop. Several of the people that I had become close to, that I had interviewed, died. And two shadows came over me. One shadow was about this late fragment and how do you navigate it, and how do you prevent the pitfalls? How do you prevent yourself going down and not sort of rejoicing in it? And the second thing was a shadow over me, which was, do I really want to get into this now? Okay, there's a lot of dark stuff here. And maybe I'll get struck by lightning, before I have to go through it. So all this heart-wrenching stuff is not worth it. No one wants to talk about it. No one wants to write about it. You find very little written about it. And yet it became a raison d'etre for me, that I wanted to figure this out. But when the shadows came, I asked my son, who teaches at Latin, and he teaches writing to other teachers. And he's marvelously insightful. And he read what I had written. And I said, is any of this any good? And do people need to hear it? And he said that a lot of the stuff that you're writing about is really important. But you're at arm's length. He said, you're not into this. You're not close enough to these people to make a difference. And you're going to have to get even closer to it. So that's where this stuff came from. Okay, so let's see where I am here. The books share three things. One is time, the preciousness of time. The second is probably there's two really important sort of themes. One is the adjustments that we have to make in order to make each phase of our life resonate and work. If we try to take the trappings from our successful careers and think that those same values are going to sustain us late, then we are going to be alone and we're going to be emotionally rifted. We have to change. We have to see new things. We have to assume new roles. And the third thing is that in the late fragment, there's only one thing that matters, and that is the relationship that we have with other human beings. Doesn't matter how much money you made, doesn't matter how successful you were in life, that it's that magic between what we call love and how we distribute it and how we feel it is what sustains us. And I saw it over and over again, and I'm going to explain where it came from. Let's begin with time. Today in the United States, there are 80,000 people that are over 100. 80,000, okay? In 25 years, that number is going to be 400,000. Now, I don't know. I think there are some people in this room, maybe Hannah, Melanie. I don't think I'll make it, but there are some of us that, maybe Chad, will still be alive 25 or 27 years from now. We are living longer, and the numbers work for you. The longer you live, the longer you're going to live. Okay? So even as we get into the late fragment, the numbers work for us. If you make it to 70, the average length of a life, if you make it to 70, is 85. If you make it to 80, you get this tremendous pop. Average age at death, average, is 89 if you're 80. Now, if you're 90, Dagenhart's doing the math there because he's saying 94. I'm right about that? 94? Is that how old you are?
92.
92, okay. So if you make it to 90, the average is 95. But if you make it to 100, it's actually 102. You get 2 more years. The point is that the longer we live, the longer we're going to live. Now, what a gift that modern medicine has given us, okay? Vaccines and antibiotics. And one of the things that people don't realize is that childbirth, in 1900, at the turn of the century there, 1 out of 12 women died in childbirth. That's astounding. And now it's less than 1.001 that would die in childbirth. So we've been given this gift of modern medicine. Sadly, 2021 and 2022 were the first years that the average lifespan of an American, which now as a female is right at 80, a male is about 78 and a half, shortened. And everybody thought it was COVID. Well, most of the people in the COVID that died from COVID were elderly or they were in poor health. And so that didn't affect the numbers. What it did is fentanyl. Every year, we lose over 100,000 people ages 15 to 25 to 30 from fentanyl poisoning. 100,000 people, and it's knocked the average lifespan back. So there's a catch to this, though, that we're going to live a long time, but when do we get this benefit? When does it come? Can it be that I'll have more time in school? Does it mean that I'll get to spend more than 4 years at UVA? Does it mean that I'm going to have my children with me longer? No. Of course, with the children being with you longer, that's be careful what you wish for. It's going to be, the benefit is going to be tacked on to the end of our lives. Certainly careers are going to be a little bit longer, and retirement, active retirement will be a little bit longer, but the majority of this time is going to be tacked on to the end, which is in the late fragment. And that's why it's so important that we get this part right. Late fragment comes from a poem by a man named Raymond Carver. He's famous more for short stories than he is for poetry. He tried to kill himself with alcohol. When he was age 40, he was told that he was not going to die. He was not going to live very much longer. He quit drinking and lived for another 10 years. But Late Fragment is the name of a poem that he wrote just before he died. And it's very interesting. It's only 4 lines long. And it says, "And did you get what you wanted out of life? Even so." The question is answered, I did. "And what did you want?" The answer, "To call myself beloved, to feel beloved on this earth." Now, the term "even so" is a throwaway. It's just slang, even so. But it takes on tremendous meaning in the poem and in our lives, because the even so is, after all the ups and downs, all the times that you were challenged and you felt like I couldn't go on, or the triumphs, after all that, all the good and the bad, even so means, did it come out positive? Was this a life that's valued? And the word beloved takes on a connotation. And if I were to interview everybody in this room and ask you what beloved means to you and what it would mean in you assessing your relationship with other humans, I would get a different answer from every person. It might be that it's a mentor that you had, or your children, or a lover, or your wife. That happens to work a little bit better if they're the same person, but I'll let you go with that, okay? But I guarantee you one thing, that it involves other human beings. To be beloved means, and he says he wants to know that he was beloved and also feel being beloved. So that's where we started. The single source of authentic value in our lives changes. During careers, we're interested in how we stack up against the world. Okay, I've got these talents, I've got these wits, and I want to see how I do. That competitive element is almost a death knell for love, relevance, and joy in the late fragment. If we're competing that late, then we've missed the human memo, and you'll see what I mean. I know using the word death scares everybody. I don't want you to go around thinking about I could die today, or that death is really in your brain. What I want is the subtle recognition that at some point in time, this ends. And therefore, it affects the perspective, the thoughts, and behavior that we have prior to that day. That it is going to end. So how do we take that little bit of anxiety and turn it into positivity? I'm going to read a segment from the introduction, and then we're going to get into some stuff. I said I have two aspirations for the book. First, that all involved, the children, families, colleagues, and people next door will understand the challenges faced by my soulmates in the late stages of life. I want those aging individuals to be approached with honor for the lives they have led. I want this understanding and respect to lead to the development of strategies to ensure that the time left is dignified and, if possible, enjoyable. Second, that the individuals who are living close to the end, those in the late fragment, I want them to find new, clever ways to remain vital. They still know things that we need to know. As in other times in my life, what I expected was not what I got. But what I got was far better than what I expected. I was thrown off course early when the search took me to some unexpected dark places. I worried that there would not be enough resolve, enough hope to justify the search. I have never been more wrong in my life. The more individuals I interviewed, listened to, and befriended, the more I realized the courage, resolve, and tenacity in these individuals was more than a match for the challenging of living a long time. We're going to cover these challenges in depth, and I'm going to offer soft suggestions and directions for meeting and overcoming them. More importantly, I need your trust that I never would have started this book unless I thought I could deliver on the promise of making this late fragment of life not just tolerable, but worthy of the lives that preceded it. This will be a wild ride. Hold on. So that's where we started with the books. The book Late Fragment is divided into 3 parts. The first part is called Background. This is where I would think it just cost a bunch of money. What the hell happened there? Here, let me have that damn thing. Best laid plans can go around. Background. I've already defined the interval that we're talking about. Okay, this late fragment of life, where the world thinks that everything's important has already happened. Okay, and I describe who's involved. What I realized, though, is that people who are not in the late fragment, or who are not caring for someone in the late fragment, it doesn't resonate with them. They're talking in a different phase of life. They're in a different phase of life, and trying to describe what I'm talking about just doesn't resonate. Who's in? Old people, lots of them. Living a long time gets you a bid, whether you like it or not. I also describe those who are born with disabilities or who develop disabilities later in life, and how challenging that is. It's an order of magnitude harder than it is for just you and I getting out of bed trying to make things work. I also include caregivers, and there's a chapter in there called Beyond Devotion, and it's about being a caregiver. There are 2 stories that are, I think they're pretty good. I'm going to say that with a little bit of, they're actually pretty good. What is it that aging is, it's seen and felt in each of us. What is seen is, when you look in the mirror, you see some wrinkles, you see a little bit of coarsening of our features. You look at our hands and our feet, and we see wrinkles, and we go, oh my God, I'm looking in the mirror, and it's almost like I'm looking at a stranger. Who is that person? The second thing is, it's felt. You go for a walk, and you come back, and you're all achy. Or you start to walk down some stairs, and you say, for the first time, I've lost confidence in my ability to make sure that I'm going to hit these steps. I'm afraid I'm going to fall. And so so what is felt is a progressive slowness and almost a metaphorical loss of balance. Now, there's one way to avoid these insults, of course, and that is to die before they start setting in. For me, I'll take the winners and a little bit of atheist, okay? But here's an important point. If the goal is to live a long time, and we get that gift, we cannot undermine the satisfaction of having made it by resenting the compromises that are inherent in the process. We can't resent that we're a little bit achy. We can't resent that we have the wrinkles, because then we throw ourselves out of that harmonic that is late in life. The late fragment, our last acts, have the potential to be the best of times, but it's tricky. Making you aware of the pitfalls, what are the mistakes that we make, the traps, is a major part of the book. Why is it tricky? Deciding how to deal with it, with aging. Why is it tricky? Because each phase of life requires a different set of values. It requires we adapt. And the approach from earlier stages of life won't work. Once, let's say that we're a young person and we are in the cars of power. We are a lawyer here in Charlotte, and we want to show people that I'm worthy of the respect of the world. What we're going to do is we're going to say, what is the problem? This is what I have to offer. I'm going to match my wits, and I am going to succeed. Time has a certain definition. I've got lots of time to make this work. And the future belongs to me. I know that I can make things happen. If I start a bank, I know that if I work hard and I'm smart, that I can be successful. In the late fragment, the definition of time and future take on completely different meanings. Okay? In the later stages of life, somebody has moved the goalpost, altered the rules. Actually, it's not even the same game. What are the signs that we're on the wrong track? That's part 2, which is entitled Jeopardy. That's where I go over. What I do is I take stories. A lot of the stories are from people who you see every day that I've talked to. Some of them know I'm interviewing them, and some of them don't. Of course, everyone that I've used in the stories, I've gotten permission from them, except for one lady, and she probably won't give it to me. She's not going to know, I don't think. She was mean. I interviewed 70 individuals, and I learned about the specific challenges. At first, I didn't ask the right questions, or if I did, I didn't know what the answers meant. And I got better. I got better at realizing when someone was trying to tell me something about things that were working in their lives. And then I saw that sometimes they were trying to tell me it's all working, and it wasn't working. I want to read just a short thing here. Let's see if I can find it. This is a lady, I call her Paige. She and her husband come to me. He was a cardiologist in He was a cardiologist in Salisbury. Not really. in the book he is. And she and her husband moved into a retirement center in Chapel Hill. They had this almost idealistic, idyllic life in, I think, Salisbury. He was a cardiologist, very respected. She had a garden club, she had a church, she had all of these friends, and they would go on these vacations together. And he had gone to Chapel Hill, and they decided that two of their friends had gone to retire in a different place. And they decided to move into a retirement center like this. And they come in, and it's obvious that she is really pissed off. Okay. Things have not worked out. She's angry because people don't know how important her husband was. And she wants to go back to Salisbury. And so she's angry and somewhat defiant. And what she did, though, is instead of including her husband in the defiance, she separated, that she drew the line much too close to her, and he felt he was outside of that. And some very mild memory issues. And it really sent him down. He got depressed. And so the discussion, I have already told her what I think is the problem, and that she has the delusion that she can go back to the life she had. And she can't. That garden club is no longer there, her friends are no longer there, and that life doesn't exist. But she doesn't want to admit it. So I want to see what I wrote about this page. I am angry, and I feel alone. She and I are talking by ourselves. But I'm not sure I follow what you're getting at. CHE. Now that we've established the real enemy, not the move, but the attacks on us from the passage of time, we can use the weapons we possess more strategically. You've got to know what the problem is in order to solve it. You have drawn the lines of defense too close to you. You have not included your husband, and he is suffering from the isolation and anger. I want the defiance to say, she is defiant, she is mad. I like that. But I want the defiance to say, I am going to protect this marvelous man, and the two of us will be a formidable team to fight this potential for despair. I want the defiance to say, my attitude, my perspective can make any situation better, and I refuse to let selfish, negative thoughts undermine our struggle. I want the defiance to say, I have room for new friends that I connect with, to give and receive help when needed. I want the defiance to say, I realize now that I have to connect with others through our shared vulnerabilities, not with the remorse of things I have lost. When she comes in, she has isolated herself because she says, we had a perfect life. My husband was this respected cardiologist, and I have things all figured out. I don't need you. So people didn't respond to her. In the late Fragment, we connect on our vulnerabilities, our humanness, not with what we've succeeded. 1 month later, Paige, I should be furious at you. You call me selfish, angry, delusional, and imply even more sinister attributes. I have always considered myself a good person. CHE, our brains don't like to confront pain. Paige, it was painful. I had gotten into a trap and I could see no way out. It wasn't until I realized that my anger was hurting things around me, and more than anything was hurting me, that I started back. I'm not completely there, but I am more positive. The daily spats are gone, and we're both thinking ahead and trying to connect with life here in Chapel Hill. CHE, I am proud of you, especially for not firing me. Paige, don't think you're out of the woods yet. Unrealistic expectations and their reliable partners, high hopes, are especially destructive in the later stages of life. The fact that we are always in the neighborhood of loss and decline makes the consequences of losing hope more significant. Understanding how, why our brains foster the creation of illusions and the sinister impact they have on our well-being will keep us on guard. So you can see, what I do is I put you in the proximity of these stories. And I want you to either learn from the mistakes of others or see yourself in those situations. But when you see yourself, that's when I'm going to fire you. Okay, when you say, oh my God, you exposed me. All right, I'm going to go back just for a few seconds here to talk about, I use in Much of Eyes, the first book, 10 ways that people undermine their joy late in life. And today I'm only going to talk about 2, and we're going to hit them pretty quickly. But every week I have people that come to the clinic, or had to the clinic, and they say, I've got this. Oh my God, I've forgotten something, or I've had some glitch, and I know I have it. So what I've done is taken the things that you don't need to worry about, okay? The first is, I don't care about names, all right? Names and the ability to connect a moniker of a person with another, with the face, it peaks at about age 28, and then it goes down as we age. You all know what this is like. You're in the dining room, okay, and you're having dinner, okay? Worth is in there, and they're having a nice dinner, and then all of a sudden someone comes to that table, and he goes, Sarah, who is that guy? I think I lent him a lot of money, but he knows me, but I'm not so sure I know him. And she said, I don't know. I don't know anything about banking. I was in healthcare. And he frets. The rest of the night, he's thinking, oh my God, I can't remember that person's name. He doesn't enjoy the meal. And then when that person comes over, he realizes that guy doesn't have any idea who he is either. So it doesn't matter about names. Technology has changed aging, okay? My grandfather was a politician from South Boston, Massachusetts. He was the consummate Irishman. His name is Charlie Hearn. He walked in here. He would have on a Panama hat, seersucker suit with two-tone shoes, and he would be in charge. Okay? A larger-than-life character. Probably finished the 8th grade. Maybe. Every word that came out of his mouth was reverential for my brother and I. Okay? Anytime we got to be around him, anytime he would take us on all kinds of trips, and we would end up at Civil War battlefields, and he would be telling us. I remember at Antietam, he would tell us about how the bodies were stacked up, and he liked the Yankees winning. Okay, so I don't know. But the bodies would be stacked up, and then we realized when we started reading the markers, he didn't have any idea about where this battle was going or where these people were. One time, we were at a Revolutionary War battlefield, and he was talking about the Confederacy, okay? But to the day that he died, it was a sacredness to this relationship, and I can still see him. But for me, with my grandchildren, they actually think that they're smarter than I am, and they will literally take an iPad out of my hand and start doing it and hand it back to me as if I'm an idiot. So it's changed that magic about eras. We lose the ability to pick up eras. One of the things about super agers is that they will walk into a room, and the first thing they see is, why is that light bulb out? They will pick up an era. When we're doing our checkbook, used to be that you could do your checkbook in 20 minutes. Now you have to quit after 2 hours, and you say, well, as long as I got checks, I must have going into the room, you're putting up a picture, okay? You've got a hammer and all that stuff, and you realize, I don't have any nails. So you go down to your utility room, you come in there, and you step in, and why am I here? I have no idea. Well, tell me, just go back up to where you were, you'll see the hammer, and you'll say, oh, I need a nail. And it can happen again, okay? Believe me. Mistakes. One of the things that we do as we age is we start to incorporate, or we start to say, I made a mistake, I must be losing it. I must be losing my balance. I must be losing my insight. Maybe some of y'all have heard the story, especially patients that have been patients of mine, because I use it. But Thursday was a day that I used to see my patients in their homes or in their facilities. And I would start, I come from Park Road. I grew up right there at the Park Road Shopping Center. And there used to be a Giant Genie. Everybody knows where the creek is on Park Road, where the Giant Genie was there. Well, there's a coffee place in the back called Mugs. And this Chinese guy, he's a really good guy, and I love going in there. So I used to have coffee. Well, one of my patients' wives had a kiosk in that shopping center. And my patient used to sit on a bench right there and watch the world go by. So I come out with my coffee, and he goes, I know you. And I go, Mr. Jones, you do know me. And he said, high school. You and I went to high school together. And I said, no. I said, I'm your memory doctor. And he goes, you're doing a terrible job. And then I get in the car and I start to drive away. And he comes screaming at me. He says, stop, stop. And I roll the window down, probably a little bit exasperated. And he goes, and he reaches up on top of the car and hands me my coffee. And he says, you don't know how good this makes me feel. We all make these horrendous errors. They're one-offs. Don't worry about it. Just work right on through. Anxiety over memory loss causes memory loss. All right. What can I do at 80 years old to protect my brain? That's the second part of this. The first thing is, the most important number in your life is not your 401k. All right? In much of eyes, I say that I belong to the club that says that in life, the goal is to bounce the check to the undertaker. Okay? And I feel like that because if you can't turn that number into joy in your life, it doesn't matter, you don't have it, it's an illusion. Well, I thought that was pretty funny until I was in a group like this and Ken Poe raised his hand and he said, I don't like that joke. Bounce the check to the undertaker, you think that's funny. Well, I'm the undertaker. Blood pressure. If you go and you are 80 years old and they take your blood pressure and it's 175 over 110, the nurse there saying, this old guy is 85 years old. It doesn't really matter. You stop them and say, this is too high. I'll take 140. I'll even take 145. But the white coat syndrome, where you think that your blood pressure goes up just because it's being taken by someone in a white coat, does not exist. And so your blood pressure, no one wants to have a stroke or heart failure or whatever. So you stop that system. Right there. Hearing loss is the number one marker for cognitive decline in a lifetime. Hearing loss. Not cardiovascular risk factors, not genetics, hearing loss. So you notice I've got hearing aids, mostly because my wife made me get them. Sleep. My patients, especially men, okay, and women, I don't know guys, but what is it about taking a nap that just seems to make women mad as hell, okay? If you're sitting there, what are you doing? I'm taking a nap. Well, you got stuff you got to do. You need to get up and go. Women don't like to nap as much, all right? But my guys that are 90, they'll eat breakfast and take a short nap. Eat lunch, take a short nap. I like, in this age group, I like 9 hours of sleep, okay? One of the effects of alcohol is to rob us of getting into these deep phases of sleep. So I like at least 3 days a week where we don't drink any alcohol. During that deep stage of sleep, there's a mechanism that the neuron shrinks and it allows microglia, these little Pac-Men, to eat all of the toxins that are in the brain. So I want that as much as I can get. Exercise. People say, I've got a walker. What can I do with exercise? It's just as important. It might be just, here at Southminster, this is like a marathon every day walking. First of all, you get lost. You have no idea where you are. Okay, you turn around. The only thing everybody knows how to get to Lola's. So I'm on the way to Lola's. You got a bottle of booze in their hand. Dental issues. Keep going to the dentist. Did you see where Union County started to take the fluoride out of the water? One of the reasons why we're living longer is a very simple fact that oral hygiene is so much more important. The incidence of dementia goes up in people that have gum disease. So that inflammation, you say, well, I'm 88 years old, I don't need to go to the dentist. Yes, you do. Okay, you need to get your teeth cleaned and stuff. Also, structure. Habits become easier to follow or to perform if we continue to do it. So let's say that you have an idea that you like to journal, you like to write letters to your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren. Make sure that you allow your time, you reserve it, and you do it. And the first couple of times it's a little bit hard, but then as you go back to it, you'll start and it's much easier, okay? But require it. And also a to-do list. I don't like you to have 10 things on a to-do list because none of them will get done. Put one thing on there, but if it goes on that list, you have to do it. All right, back to late fragment. We're getting toward the end. The last part of the book is called directive. It is where I lead you to the things that we can rely on in our lives. I'll give you an example. I had this marvelous English teacher when I was at Myers Park High School. Anybody went to Myers Park High School here? Oh my God. Okay. So she was amazing, and she made us memorize these quotes from literature, like Shakespeare, A.E. Housman, Holmes, and everything. And I've carried it in my brain for my whole life. I can still get back every one of them. And she is a character in the book where she taught school for 50 years. And it's what courage looks like, but you wouldn't use it in a spinster school teacher who is 80 some odd years old. But she shows as much courage in a day as any warrior has, just getting up and going through her days. Her sister dies, she thinks she's going to die, and there's a poem by Milton on blindness, and it brings her back because she says, Milton is talking to me. That's one of the chapters. The second is Vital Links. These are people who have been mentors, people that have guided us at times when we needed guidance, and we lose them. They die. Or it may be that the guidance is going to come from a grandchild or an uncle, but you're looking for wisdom. The misconception is that everyone who is old has wisdom. That is a giant misconception. Accepting New Roles is a chapter about my grandson and I are having lunch at a restaurant on the way to Thanksgiving, and a waitress shows up with a giant tattoo on her arm. And it triggers a discussion between the two of us that changes my life and my perspective on all kinds of things. So I want to read a typical chapter in the book. And I was going to read the chapter Vital Links, and that's about the mentors. The two people that I use in that came to me in the library up there. When I had my clinic here, I would go for about 15 minutes or 20 minutes and just be by myself, and I would run into the same person every day. And he tells me a story about two people that now are really important to him. Both died when they were very young. And it's really important for us to realize that we need those people, even if they're not here, to think about how they influenced us and what they would want to do in our situation, or what they would want us to do. This is a story, my daughter Leslie did the art in the book. She's amazing. We had so much fun doing it. So this is So Much Depends Upon Much. The quote at the beginning is, "Do anything, but let it produce joy." Let me tell you a love story. It involves Alex Jackson and his wife, Norma Burton. They've been married 64 years. Alex is 85 years old. Norma is a year older. They live in a retirement community here in Charlotte. Both of them have lived in Charlotte their entire lives. Alex has been a phenomenon from an early age. He was valedictorian of his high school class and in his class at Princeton. He joined the Marines rather than drafted, spending 2 years on active duty just before Vietnam. Following discharge from the service, he turned down scholarships to Harvard and Yale to come home to Chapel Hill. It was always odd that Alex was never described as brilliant or even smart. What was said was, he's the kindest person on the planet. Norma was in the same high school class as Alex, but they didn't date until they wound up in Chapel Hill. She received a master's degree in English. He studied law. After graduation, they came home. Norma taught English in the public school, and Alex joined a law firm in Charlotte. They adopted one child, a daughter, Nicole. As you might guess, Alex had a stellar career as a corporate lawyer, sought out for his common sense and insight. Norma was equally successful in her 45 years of teaching. They both worked into their 70s. When I get to a couple of sentences, I'll get a little choked up because I love these people, and sometimes I can't get through it. Retirement was seamless. It gave them more time together doing what they pleased. They traveled the world and enjoyed family and friends. A lifetime passed by. 7 years ago, they moved into a retirement center at the same time as 3 close couples. Initially, they were in a cottage, but 3 years ago, they relocated to the main building in deference to declining mobility. About the time they made that switch, Alex was involved in an auto accident. While entering on a busy street past a blind curve, he was hit by an oncoming car. The damage done to both cars was nothing compared to the damage done to Alex's confidence. "I never saw it coming," he explains. Instead of blaming the speed of the other car, he took full responsibility and sadly never drove again. Norma always drove. He sat vigilantly in the passenger seat. The thought that he might hurt someone guaranteed that he was always nervous driving anywhere. They never drove at night and drove only in familiar surroundings. I will let Alex explain why they came to see me. AJ, Alex. Chuck, I am slowly going downhill with my memory. I struggled with the names in the dining room, literally to remember the names of people I have known all my life. Norma is amazing with names and covers for me. I have sleep apnea, but I no longer am able to follow all the steps on how to use the CPAP. I have quit trying. I know you say that names and technology don't matter, but they matter to me. I know I am slipping, and I see an uncertain future. Take reading, for example. Norma and I have never watched TV except for sports. We are both readers. Norma is an English teacher. We often will read the same book, sometimes reading to one another. In a new book, I have trouble remembering the storyline from one day to the next. Because of this, we started watching Masterpiece Theater on PBS. I need subtitles to understand what they're saying. Even then, I lose the plot line. CHE, so do I. AJ, I'm asking repetitive questions, and short-term memory is normal. I meet with Norma alone. She confirms what Alex has shared. She adds, he always apologizes when he asks me to repeat something. I know it's killing him, but it doesn't bother me. At our age, I think we're holding our own. We do our thing, a careful history, physical examination, testing, and a full set of lab. His blood pressure is marginally high at 155 over 88, and the MRI shows what are called white matter changes, more prominent than expected for 86. White matters are historically linked to cardiovascular changes in the brain, probably related to this hypertension. The lab is normal. The MOCA score is 26 out of 30, which is a really good score, with the only deficits being 3 losses on short-term memory and the date. For someone at his intelligence level, there is a problem. I'll be at mine. I explained that this is mild cognitive impairment. It is defined as mild memory loss that doesn't interfere with everyday life. It's called amnestic because at this point it only affects short-term memory. There is no depression, no medication is needed. Parting advice is simply reassurance. CHE, Alex, 90% of your life is working in an enviable fashion. We are not going to let the 10% that is undermine our happiness. At 85 and 86 years of age, you both are still on the honor roll. 3 months later, I'm happy to report, this is CHE talking to them. I'm happy to report your blood pressure is now acceptable at 138 over 82. High blood pressure drives memory loss. This positive response will help keep you from declining. I'd like to know what your routines are. What is going on at your house when things are working? On any given morning, when you all wake up and say, this is going to be a great day because of this. What is this? Norma, we are slaves to routine. We get up at the same time every morning, 7:30. We have the same breakfast every day. Orange juice, English muffin, red pepper jelly, and coffee. AJ, the English muffin is the crowning achievement of Western civilization. CHE, I agree. Norma, if we have family obligations, they would dominate, but that is rare. After breakfast, we sit down and plan where we're going to lunch. We eat one major meal a day, always at lunch. It may seem trivial, but we consider it the secret sauce to happiness on any given day. CHE, I love this. Where do you go? AJ, depends on the weather. We have about 5 go-to places. We've rotated depending on different factors. It's a complex and nuanced decision. CHE, how does the weather come in? AJ, it's raining, you can't go to one of them. CHE, what are the 5? Phil's Deli, Shake Shack, Chick-fil-A, Flip Tops, and Dairy Queen. Each place has a different vibe, not only because of the food, but mostly from the different people we encounter there. For instance, Brick Tops. It's a reservation place. We love some of the dishes, but the clientele is affluent and predictable. We like to sit at a vantage point and watch the world go by. There is no place to do that there. We love characters, and characters don't hang out at Brick Tops. CHE, what is your bottom line favorite? Norma, Dairy Queen, by far. AJ, no question, Dairy Queen. AJ, first, the food is great. We always split everything. We get a foot long and split it. We have to negotiate the blizzards. I think the Butterfinger is the bomb that Norman tries to hold out for Heat Bar. But the real reason is the vantage point. There's a park bench next to the outdoor tables. We can see everyone and everything from there. Everyone is equal at Dairy Queen. You wait in line outside, no VIP tables or favorite guests. If it's raining, everybody gets wet. Norma, it's America waiting in line. It is near the courthouse, and Alex recognizes the lawyer standing next to the judge. Right behind them is the defendant with an ankle surveillance device on his ankle. There's something about the mind that makes the whole scene authentic. It is just fun to watch. Norma, we love lunch. Why is this story important? Why a whole chapter on two people going to lunch? I think you probably know the answer. For starters, it's not about lunch. It's about love. Why do you think they're able to deal with his memory loss so effectively? Here's a man who could always rely on one thing in his life. It never let him down, his intellect. He was not just smart, he was a wonder kind. He is aware that this gift is slowly being taken away. He has lost the ability to follow plot lines and to read the content. However, his saving grace is the devotion from his wife that trumps all of the memory loss. The apologies for asking repetitive questions are met with affirmation and love. They are a formidable team, asking no quarter for the subtle chinks in the armor brought on by their shared longevity. Anticipation is the human capacity to look forward to, expect, and vision the future. It has a positive connotation. It is linked to hope and promise. In slang, it is to be on to something. The something can be anything. It may be lunch, a walk, a big game, bridge, gardening, or an encounter with a person you love. It doesn't matter as long as it provides even one skip in a long line of heartbeats. I would give anything to say that the rituals for Alex and Norma are still in play. Sadly, they are not. Alex survived the first of two strokes and returned close to baseline. The second stroke closed the book. Suddenly, thankful. Norma moved into assisted living immediately. She lost contact with reality without him and declined rapidly. I have been to the Dairy Queen and sat on the bench where they shared the footlong, the blizzard, and the search for characters. I'm not saying in the grand scheme that this was all that important. No, wait. I'm saying it is all that important. It borders on crucial. In the late Fragment, our day-to-day routines might not have as big of an impact as our actions during our careers. But these rituals are a huge reason that joy and delight are attainable no matter how long we live. They might not involve a major business success, but lunch is, after all, lunch, and will always be important in its own way. After all, life's huge business deals never come with a blizzard. Just so that gives you some idea of what I'm trying to get at. So before I go, and then I'll answer a few questions. My advice, what I've learned is that gratitude for the lives that we have are a recurring theme in the people that I interviewed. It was always there. There was a Chuck. My life has always been way beyond my expectations. But the gratitude was not for the financial success or the reputations. It was for the relationship with other people, my family, my wife, the people that I got to work with. Also, humility almost always tagged along. Directive is I stole that from a poem by Robert Frost. I give him credit. And he takes us through an abandoned landscape of two civilizations that have disappeared, to go and drink from a spring that he says will make us whole again if we drink from that spring. And that's what I was hoping for the book, was that we would go through some steps that would allow us to take away a lot of the things that don't matter anymore, to turn to the things that matter crucially, and then we'd be whole again. Because what happens is life takes away chunks and chinks of who we are and who we were. And we have to have these strong ideas about what we're about in order to survive. So, 3 things. One is, be comfortable, even so, with what you achieved in life and who you are. It's almost like, when they give an award to these producers or these actors, it's a lifetime achievement award. Not everything that they did was worth it, okay? But overall, the stuff that we've done is worthwhile. The second thing is that we have still responsibility to others. Age makes us self-absorbed. It makes us think about, what am I doing? What do I need? And where the value and the affirmation in life comes from seeing what others need, and then all of a sudden there's a give and take. You become a friend to others that you want them to be to you. And the last thing is that we are still evolving. Okay, we are still evolving as humans. Only goal is, I want to be a better person, more aware of others today than I was yesterday. Okay, we'll stop. And if y'all have anything you want to ask, a little bit.